Hello and welcome to Conscious Living Radio. My name is Marc Caron, and typically Tasha's hosting the show in the past, and this week she's actually away filming some movie scenes apparently, because if you didn't know, Tasha, our great Tasha, is also an actor. And today I get the opportunity to interview a gentleman who we had on the show a few months back, and his name is Vincent Genna. He's a psychic therapist and a spiritual teacher, and he's known as the Tell It Like It Is. And he's really a truly authentic spiritual teacher and psychic therapist, as I had already mentioned, but he combines his extraordinary psychic abilities, academic credentials, and genuine, all-loving approach to providing healthy healing for your body, mind, and spirit. As a psychic therapist, Vincent uses his more than 36 years of training, research, and experience in the metaphysical, psychological, and spiritual fields to dive deep into your psyche to release blockages, resistances, and self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors so you can fulfill the life of your dreams. Vincent, welcome. Always a pleasure. I know we had a great time when we spoke last time, so I'm excited to speak with you again today, because today we're talking about love and relationships, and it's the month of Valentine's and romance. So I look forward to this conversation with you today. Welcome.
Oh, absolutely, Mark. And thank you so much for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here and a joy. And I love talking about love. I mean, love is vital. Love is what we're made of. Love is where we came from. So love is the most important and essential element on the earth today.
I happen to agree, and I know Tasha does too. It's one of her favorite topics, and she was sad to have been, missing this with you again today. But, we're two guys here. We're going to be talking about love and romance and what we can do. And one thing, Vincent, is I'd like to approach it as well as not just, Valentine's Day, because sometimes, Valentine's Day, people think that's the day they got to buy flowers, do cards, take people out for dinner. And I'm just one of those believers that's got to be 365, 24/7, not just for that Hallmark holiday.
Well, that is absolutely right. I consider this the month of love. And what's interesting now, Mark, is why were we inspired to create that holiday? And any holiday is I actually do a lecture called Life is a Hallmark Moment. And people can get that on my website. It's a lot of fun because I believe that commercialism was inspired too. And the reason why is because we don't pay attention to it every single day. We take it for granted. And so there was a part of us, or there was a spirit within us that said, hey, you know what? We better make a holiday over here about love, because you guys are going through every single day without even paying attention to it. Maybe this day you'll think about it a little bit more. But then we got all wrapped up in partner and romance and that love and Cupid, and that it's all about that. But really, the whole purpose of the holiday, Mark, isn't about loving others first. It's about loving yourself first, because that's the only way to be able to extend it then on to others. If we go back, there's a lot of spiritual leaders that have given us great philosophies and words to think about. And one spiritual leader said, one of the highest commandments is to love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Now, that is completely misunderstood, because everybody would like to think that Jesus meant, well, you got to love your neighbor just like you love yourself, don't just love yourself, love your neighbor. And I'm like, that guy wouldn't have come down during that time to tell us to love our neighbor like we loved ourselves, because we were doing such harm to ourselves. He wouldn't want us to do the same thing to our neighbor. That's not what was said. What was said is, as you love yourself and the highest being that you are and the God within you, then you can extend that out and love others. And it is a commandment to love ourselves. because that's where it all stems from. So we created this cute little holiday with a cute little baby. Now, where the heck did that icon come from? Cupid, that was a baby with a bow and arrow. Do you know anybody in the living
in a diaper?
Baby in a diaper, right? It's just like, oh my gosh. No, my best vision of it is from the movie The Santa Claus. I don't know if you remembered that, but Santa Claus was in a meeting with Mother Nature, the Easter Bunny, Father Time, the Sandman, and Cupid. And Cupid was this older guy with a bow and arrow and a diaper. I'm like, he had a Depends on, and he was Cupid. Where do we come up with these ideas? Why did we think of it as a child? Because if you really think about it, if we are evolved and matured as spiritual beings, we would know and we would be honoring love all the time. But because we're still so young, we have to be reminded of that we even choose a child icon to remind the child within us, because that's where the damage starts first. So that's why all about Valentine. So go ahead. Yeah.
Wow. You said a lot, and I want to go back to what you said just as you were opening about, love is what we're made of. Love is what we all want. Love is who we are. And then, I love how you came back to talking about, Cupid is where we've kind of learned to lose that, through our childhood, through whatever reason. Now, why do you think that is? If love is such an innate part of who we are, and what we're made up of and what we all want, why do you think we have so much dysfunction around love?
Oh, actually, it's the most deprived thing on the face of the earth today, unconditional love. We've come to accept earthly love, which has nothing to do with unconditional love. And that is such a great question, Mark. The reason why is because of our stories. All right, look, I'm not one to pass on blame or anything like that, but we do have to realize where these problems start from. Now, let's say you're an adult and you've had a hard life, and maybe your childhood was really bad, and maybe your parents, you didn't even have parents, or you had parents, they weren't there all the time, or maybe they were abusive. And now one day you decide to get married and you're going to be a parent now. Okay, and you go out and you get pregnant. Well, not you personally, Mark. I don't think you'd be so famous if you could right now, okay? Right? So, all right, so now these adults become pregnant. Well, guess what? There's no magic pill. There is no part of the birthing process that causes that person to now become normal and healed. And she has a baby, and there's two adults now, because like attracts like, chances are she's with a partner, either male or female, that also came from a hard past or has hard self-feelings, and now the two of them are going to raise a child. Well, guess what? Those issues get passed down to the children. I have heard such incredible stories, remarkable stories of torment and pain that so many people have been through in their youths. I myself personally, I don't know if I shared this the last time I was here, but until I was 17 years old, I was completely tormented in school. I was the bullied one. I was chased every day. When I was caught, I was beat up, shoved in lockers, head flushed in toilets, thrown in dumpsters, stripped and thrown into assemblies to be embarrassed. And then when I got home, because mom had some mental pathologies going on, I got abused at home by both my mother and my father, and then sexually molested by both my babysitter and a parish priest. So there's a lot of damage there. Now, I'm not saying everybody else's story is that intense, nor am I saying mine's the most intense. So think about those stories and what we would walk away thinking about ourselves. And here's the most important thing, Mark. The two most important things you learn growing up from your parents and the environment is, one, whether you're lovable, and two, how to love yourself. And the pattern in which you're treated is the way you start treating yourself. So when you ask, where has it gone wrong and why has it become so dysfunctional? It's because the majority of people in this world do not love or believe in themselves, and that's where it starts. That's why we created a Cupid instead of an adult to shoot an arrow of love into us, because it's the child that's damaged, not the adult. And we're an accumulation of our entire lifetime. You don't go from 1 to 15 to 30 to 50 to 80. You accumulate those years. So that little kid and the experiences he or she went through is still inside of you. And that's where it begins, Mark. That's where it starts. When I do my lectures, all you need is love. That's where I start with everybody.
Beautifully said. And I thank you for sharing your story and some of the things that, affected your childhood growing up, Vincent, because I think it's important for people to hear that and that you talk about it openly. Because I personally believe, when you talk about things, it releases them. There's some release there.
Yes.
And it lets people know that they're not alone. And,
Absolutely.
I like how you also framed it, saying it, it's not the best story. It's not the worst story. Some people haven't had it like that. And yet, even though, people who have grown up in really great homes run into the same thing over this, small stuff that their parents didn't mean anything by. And I realized in my growing up and some of my awakenings is, holy crap, my parents didn't know what the hell they were doing either.
Right.
They didn't know. They did their best, yet we make one distinction as a 3, 4, 5, 6, however old we are at that point, where our parents make no ill harm, or even if they do, harm in a different way, that we, like you say, we tell that story, that meaning.
That's
that
right.
makes us, think we're unlovable or we're not good enough, because again, like you said, it's what we all want. So I guess my question is how do we overcome that in a good way? Is there an easy way that we can work with ourselves and that we can share with others to open our hearts to more love and acceptance of ourselves first?
No. That's not only an excellent question, it's a very deep one. And it's also the question that lets everybody know what they need to do for the rest of their lives. Whatever your story is, Mark, every injury creates a scar. Even if you've been through, and I know that really if you look at the world, we've come pretty far along, maybe not so much spiritually and the way we treat each other and believe in each other, because there is that self-work that needs to be done. However, not everybody is running around shooting everybody else, okay? There's still only a minority of those people. Majority of people are really good at heart. But the problem is that the work needs to be done, and it always needs to be done. I am 65 years old. I have done this work at least when I had my spiritual awakening 37 years ago. I've been working at least that long on little Vinny. And now I hear little Vinny's voice. So whenever things are going great in my life or my career, and all of a sudden I hear, oh, you're not going to get that. Oh, you're not good enough for that. See, the difference between me and most people, that they think is just their human mind going back and forth. Oh, I have some doubts. Oh, they create defense mechanisms. And it's just like, oh, they're dealing with that all the time. I, on the other hand, know, wait a minute. Anything that comes from me that's negative comes from that little kid. Because I'm going to say something that people are going to go, or your listeners are going to go, what, is he crazy? Yes, of course I'm crazy. That's why I'm going to say it. But you got to listen to it because it's true. Every adult is rational, reasonable, reliable, and stable. We've been taught to be that way. I'll say it again. Every adult is rational, reasonable, reliable, and stable. But every child is not. So whenever you see an adult acting unreasonably or negatively in any way, It's that child within them that's acting up. And the proof of that is look at how people are acting. Yeah, I mean, you're over there in Vancouver. How fabulous. I know you have your own issues and problems because you've got humans there. Look over here this past month, okay, the beginning month in the United States. When you look at those people, after you move the anger out of the way because you think, wow, they're crazy, these terrorists, they're horrible. Every single one of them, Mark, were little kids having temper tantrums. What adult throws a fire extinguisher at a policeman? Kids do that. Kids do that, right? So if you think about it, what has caused that little kid to respond and react is because they don't feel loved. They don't feel attended to. They don't feel cared for. And that started from when they were a little kid. And the interesting thing, we were warned about this hundreds of years ago. Thousands of years ago, when the Bible was written, those First Testament stories are actually metaphysical stories for us to learn about ourselves. They're not just all historical accounts. Yes, they used characters from back then, but they put together the stories to help with a message. And one of the earliest stories, because we've been this way since almost the beginning of time, is the story of Cain and Abel. And here's what I mean about that. When you feel attached to your God source or your mother, your father in the Bible, when you hear Adam and Eve together in the beginning, that's a representation of the God force, the divine thing, whatever power and source you want to believe created us, right? When you feel attached to that, you feel attended to. You feel cared for. You feel loved. You feel lovable. You feel kind. You feel like Abel. Now, when you're detached from that, you feel neglected. You feel abandoned. You feel uncared for, unlovable, and that becomes, you feel resentful. You feel enraged. You feel angry. You feel like Cain. And the Cain in us can become so strong it can overpower and kill that Abel within us. That is the meaning of the whole story. That's why you can see people, and it's very hard pressed to convince them that they're cared for because they killed that other side of them that lets them know that their early stories were untrue. You really are divine. You really are lovable. Just give us a chance. We'll help you. We'll do something for you, whatever. But they strangulated and killed that part, and it's going to be really difficult to get it back again. But this is a process that takes every single day of your life. You have to be aware. Be aware of that inner voice. Be aware of that negative voice, and then reparent yourself. So whenever you hear yourself saying, oh man, I've got such a great dream. I want to do that, but that's not going to happen. You know, it's not. I mean, the economy's going bad. Nobody is going to believe in that. Or even you want to write a book, or who's going to buy my book? Stop. Stop the negative voice. You've got to take control, and we all are capable of taking control. Stop that voice and say, reparent, and say, no, you're wrong. Sorry. That's the little kid in you. That's me, little Vinny. That's little Vinny. Well, for everybody else, it'll be little Mark. It'll be little whoever else, you know. I didn't ruin everybody's life out there. They did it themselves. Okay, so that's okay. You've come so far. You've done a lot. Of course you're good. Of course people will like your book. Come on, keep going. So what I'm saying is you've got to be on top of that inner voice. First, you have to hear it. Second, then you've got to control it. But actually, there's a 1A. First, you've got to admit you're creating defense mechanisms to protect you from even knowing you don't believe in yourselves, because that's what the brain does. It creates defense mechanisms to shield and protect you from that which hurts. So instead of hearing, you're no good, you're not lovable, that's why your relationship is not working out, instead, you'll hear, well, he's horrible or she's terrible. I can't believe she's treating me that way. How rotten. If it wasn't for them, I'd be happier. I can't believe I attracted or I'm dating or I'm married to this idiot. That's what we do because we're defending what we're really believing deep down. And as a psychic, I get to see and hear those inner beliefs. So when somebody tells me that they've been divorced 3 times, but they're ready for love, and it's only because there are only jerks around them that they've been attracting or the wrong one, when am I going to get the right one? My answer is the same for everybody. When you start believing you're lovable. Oh, I believe I'm lovable. Oh my gosh. And depending upon what state or country you come from, that denial can be really increased. Like, for example, you don't want to deal with a woman from New York. Man, oh man, I come from New York. And when you turn around and tell a New York woman she doesn't love herself, oh man, she reaches through the internet to strangulate you. Because the defense mechanisms are so strong. And I've got to burst their bubbles, Mark, and let them, and then I reflect their lives back to them. And I say, okay, with all of that went on in your childhood, are you still going to tell me that you believe you're lovable? And that's when they say, I guess not. Well, there you go. Now you know what you need to do. Because if I put a 9-year-old in front of you, a 7-year-old, and that 7-year-old kid said, Mommy, Daddy, the kids picked on me in school. I'm no good. I'm not lovable. Everybody hates me. The teacher corrected me. I made a mistake in school. I'm stupid. You would never let that child say all of that or believe all of that because children catastrophize and exaggerate. As the adult, you would explain to the child that it's okay. No, maybe the kid's mommy or daddy yelled at them before they went to school and they're taking it out on you, honey. And no, it's okay that you made a mistake. You're going to do better tomorrow. So knowing how you would nurture a regular 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15-year-old kid of yours, that's what you have to do to yourself every time you hear something negative, a doubt, a fear, anything. Our spiritual soul talks to us in a completely different way than the pain in our unconscious minds. That will always be negative. The other will always be inspiring and positive in some way. Those are the steps.
Yeah, no, I love that, Vincent. And, I love how you just talked about, what the soul knows, versus when we get caught up in our other stuff, belief systems, experiences, stories, whatever that is. And I know when we reach that soul level, and I think people are waking up more and more every day right now. And I look forward to seeing what happens as time moves on, because, I've always said we have enough knowledge, information, resources, resourcefulness in this world with so many brilliant teachers, leaders from science to spirituality to all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And it always kind of, because I do understand human nature, yet it always blows me away that we can still have so much, struggle and pain in the world.
Well, where that comes from, Mark, is, and I just talked about this on another show just recently, we can be fed all the most beautiful information that there is out there. And if you really think about it, the science part is new, the technology part is new, but the wisdom is quite ancient.
Yes.
So you have to then say, all right, why didn't this ancient wisdom affect you in a positive way before? Because all information still gets filtered through your own personal belief systems. And those belief systems are created for you, like I said, from when you are really young. So then you can take 2 people, and this person did work on healing themselves, this person did not. Now both are receiving the same information, and yet it seems to be affecting this one in a very positive way, and this one's growing, and this one's like, that's fake news.
Mhm.
and is going in the other direction because it depends on the filtration system. So therefore, it's not that we need more information, we need healing. Everybody needs healing first. I actually wrote a book that I'm finally getting published, and I believe somewhere along the lines the title is going to be God, It's Not Working. And I came up with that title because there are so many people, like you said, who are becoming thirsty because they hear of all this information. Right? With all these incredible spiritual gurus and authors and doctors that are putting out unbelievable wisdom and beautiful information. And they're going, I want to do that. I want to learn about the law of attraction. I want to manifest now. And they try it and they try it and they take a class and they read a book. I mean, the spiritual book publishing and self-help book publishing industry makes $33 billion a year. And that's a small figure from many years ago. It's probably unbelievably large now. Yet, you still have people going, but God, it's not working. It's not working. Why isn't it working? Is it the information? It's not working. No, it's not the information. It's your filtration system because you really don't believe what you think you believe. That's what my book is about. And that's why I did 37 years of research and study and experience in learning about the human mind and the anomalies that go on in there. Here's a surprising fact that most people are unaware of. Only 2 to 5% of the human mind, Mark, is in conscious awareness. Only 2 to 5%. That means 95 to 98% is in unawareness. So you have no idea what's going on in there. So that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult, but you can get to know what's on in there. You can. And people can take the hint by what's in their outer world. Because since we manifest, and since we're talking about love, I will tell you this right now, with no uncertain terms and no doubts in my mind. There are 8 billion people on the face of the earth at least. Love is the most natural energy on the earth, and attraction is the most natural behavior because we're social creatures. So that means if you have not attracted the right love, if your relationship is breaking apart, not that great, or you don't even have one, the bottom line is because you don't believe you're lovable. That is it. You do not have to work on anything else. We have to work on that. One of my lectures is called All You Need Is Love, Attract and Maintain Perfect Relationships. And I tell people attraction has nothing to do with another person, not at all. Nothing. You don't have to go shopping. Whatever you plan on doing, you can do by believing and working on yourself first. And you will automatically put that energy out into the universe and attract the like, and it'll come back to you. But you've got to love yourself first. So look at your life and see what's in it or what's not in it, because then you'll know what some of your inner beliefs are that are controlling your world.
I love it. So again, you said we're talking about love. It's Valentine's Day month, so it's typically a romance month. What would you say, because with the current situation in the world, we're seeing a number of different, side effects in the social scene. And part of that is in relationships and people who've been married and have families, from people who are dating and people who are having a hard time dating. What do you suggest for people right now, how to make the best out of, love and romance? And again, not just for Valentine's Day, but moving forward.
Moving forward, yes, okay. Well, you take books like 5 Love Languages, and you read it backwards or throw it away completely. Now, why do I say that? because there is so much mythical evidence out there and fallacies out there that it's confusing the heck out of people. For example, that book, boy, if I ever meet the author, he's going to punch me in the face. It's a great book if you use it the right way. But think about it for a minute. That book teaches you how to learn the language of your partner so that you can show him or her his or her way of knowing that you love them. That explanation in itself is confusing. That's like you go to Paris and you're bringing an English translation book with you, and you give it to your waiter at a restaurant, and you tell the waiter, do me a favor, could you please learn English so that you can explain to me what's on the menu? That way I understand it. Now, that's the most ridiculous thing. You don't go to somebody else's country and tell them to learn your language. How about you learn their language? There's the way you need the book. You sit as a couple and you read the book, and when one turns around and says, well, I like touchy-feely, that lets me know that you love me. And the other person is saying, well, I like communication and attention. That lets me know that you love me. Okay.
I like gifts, by the way, Vincent. I like gifts.
Oh, you like gifts. Okay. All right. You like gifts. Okay. So that's good. So now here's the thing about that. When I receive a gift from you, you don't have to worry about what my language is. I have to think about what your language is, because when you give it to me, then I get to say, oh, well, that's the way he likes being loved, so he must be saying, I love you. Mm-hmm. You see the difference between you have to change your style, your personality, in order for me to understand. And I don't want a gift. You know what I like. I want to have sex tonight, then I know you love me. And you just want to give a gift because you like gifts. Okay, well, all right. So, I mean, obviously everybody likes to have sex, but that's an example that I'm talking about. So communication is primal between couples. And then you got to get over.
That's what I wanted to get to was about that communication, so that we can understand each other. And what I love is when you see couples who you see where they become that natural fit. If we talk about their love languages, when they speak the same language, where their communication.
Well, that makes it easier. But
Absolutely.
Here's what I do. Yes, here's how I help people. I actually don't do couple counseling. When I do my couple counseling, I teach them they have to do individual counseling, but do it together. So in other words, communication is natural, but if you can't communicate with yourself, you're not going to be able to communicate with anybody else. Think of the arguments you have with yourself. Think of how you can't even formulate your own ideas, your own desires, your own thoughts, and then expect to have a communication with somebody else to explain how much you love them. It doesn't work that way. So it always starts with the individuals. Mm-hmm. So if you're both reading a book together of self-improvement to work on yourself and you're doing it together, the communication automatically opens up. So it's always whatever starts within you automatically extends out with the other person. So communication isn't about just, okay, you have to respond back with, so what I hear you saying is you are upset that I didn't take out the trash, not because you didn't think I was not thinking about you. By the time you get done, with how to properly communicate with each other, you might as well just break apart the relationship, because ain't nobody going to talk that way to each other. You talk with yourself in depth. You go into your own inner core mind. Every relationship that I deal with, I ask them, you say you have a happy marriage. Does your spouse, does your partner know every ounce, every part of your mind and your feelings? Well, no, we don't share everything. What do you mean you don't share everything? So when you get upset about something about yourself, you don't share that with your partner? No, because I don't want to get him upset. Oh, really? Okay, and you call that a marriage? You're not even communicating with yourself. You're ignoring that, no less not sharing it. So you have a surface marriage then. And you wonder why it can break apart so easily. How is he feeling about himself? How is she feeling about herself? You've got to be sharing that, because those are the most intimate, most important things about each human being. How are they believing? How are they feeling? Well, we don't talk about that. I love this one. You got two people living together with completely polarized values. Over here in the United States, you have a Republican and a Democrat living together, and they call that a marriage. And I'm like, seriously, guys? Seriously? How do you make that work? Well, we don't talk about it. What do you mean you don't talk about it? How could you not talk about your values and your beliefs? Because it'll start an argument. Well, don't you think you should be with somebody then that you won't start an argument? You're on the same core level, at least that way. No, people are so desperate, Mark, for companionship and relationships, that the major reason why they're breaking apart is because they're just getting together with anybody, and because they've attracted that. They never expected it to work deep down, because they didn't think they were lovable, but they're accepting what they're getting, and they know that somehow, some way it's going to break apart. It's not going to last. Unconsciously, they know this. Energetically, they know this, but they'll pretend, and they see how long they pretend. Do you know how many of our old parent marriages should have broke up, but they never did, because divorce was not acceptable back then? Right? And so they stayed together, and they lived a mundane, unloving life, but they just got along for the kids. That's what we're accepting in life, rather than unconditional love. It's like, how can we expect to evolve further when we're so willing to accept such minimalism between each other?
So I have a question about what you're saying there, because I like what you're saying about the communication about, beliefs, and, well, you don't want to talk about that, or, they don't want conflict because they might have different beliefs. In sharing that, when a couple's sharing that, is it important for people to agree with the other person's beliefs, or is it okay to have different beliefs within a relationship?
It depends upon the belief. There are very important human value beliefs, and then there are beliefs of what color goes with this color, okay? And so, no, those beliefs you don't have to agree on, because everybody has different taste, different things are that they appreciate. My wife likes hot food. I don't like hot food at all. She likes chocolate ice cream. I like vanilla. We can get along with all of that, because every place we go, they have vanilla and chocolate, right? We go to a restaurant. I don't get spice in mine. She could get spice in hers. But how to treat a human being, political values, because especially over here in the United States, the past 4 years wasn't about politics, actually. It was about human values, right? It was a way we were justifying what we could do to other human beings. Somebody who doesn't believe that a gay is equal to a heterosexual, or that a woman is equal to a male. Oh, no, I am not going to compromise those values. No, absolutely not. It's not okay to be living with somebody that opposes your human values. And you need to be able to honor them rather than ignore them. And I know too many people who do ignore them, and they don't have a marriage. They just happen to be living in the same house together, but they don't like each other. They don't. What is that? What is that? That's not, yes, it's vitally important to agree. But let me give you a secret on how to make that work to start with. Okay. How to attract the right one to start with. And you know that list that everybody writes for the person that they want to go out with or they want to marry?
Yeah.
They got, oh, yeah. All right. Well, I want everybody to write that list, but this is the way they got to do it, okay? Take a pad and a pen, and at the top, and you have to follow it, these directions. At the top of the page, you write the title, the 10 most important traits I want in my partner. The 10 most important traits I want in my partner. All right, you got to write it like that. Then you go and list. Now, you probably have 20, but don't narrow it down to the top 10 most important traits, whatever they are. When you're done with number 10, go back to the title, cross out the word partner, and write in the word M-E. So now the title says, the top 10 most important traits I want in me, and work on them. Get rid of the traits you don't like, enhance the traits or embed the traits you do like, and I guarantee you that's what you will attract in your life, because like attracts like. Personality styles can be opposite, but that is a major myth that opposites attract. They do not. Like attracts like. The cores must be the same. But if you don't even know what your core is and you're all over the place, that's what you're going to attract. If you don't love yourself and like yourself and think you have value, that's what you're going to attract. Now, you put two people like that together, that does not bode well for a relationship, and anything can happen. And not everybody is an animal. Okay, that's the other thing, especially men. Ladies, stop griping about how bad men are, and men, stop bitching about how bad women are. All right, because all I hear is how these men became animals and they did this and they did that. Look, that's a possibility when the negative takes over, but that same possibility, like I said, that Cain and Abel is in everybody. And you're capable of coming out with that, especially if you're not healed, right? That's what you've got to work on, is healing that so you don't see the negative side come out. But if you see the negative side come out, it's because you're not working on your negative side either. There are no victims in relationships because we manifest everything in our lives, Mark. And then get rid of these myths. Oh, I've got one myth that, woo, when I tell everybody it, they get really pissed at me. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, really, they really hate this myth. Well, I tell them it's a myth, and they hate this understanding because I've blown their bubble of anything romantic. I'll share it if you want me to share it, but I don't want you to get, oh yeah? Okay. The number one myth that everybody is hooked onto that has caused more trouble today in relationships than not is the concept of soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
There are no such things as soulmates. God did not create a perfect person for you. Richard Bach, author, wrote some books a while ago. Illusions was one of them. He started coining the concept of soulmates. And everybody loved it because it was so romantic. From that point on, everybody was seeking their soulmate. And the funny thing, Mark, I get these people, calling me up. Oh, I was in love with this person. I thought he was my soulmate. I thought she was my soulmate. It was so perfect, but I was so wrong. And now I'm looking for my real soulmate. When am I going to find him? I said, as soon as you get rid of the concept of soulmate, you already made one mistake with that idea. Don't be going and making another mistake. But here is where soulmate is important. Whatever relationship you're in, don't stop developing it until you make it into a soulmate-like relationship. You can do that with anybody that you're with. Don't be looking for your soulmate. Now, that's not to say that maybe there is a person in your life that you've been with before a couple of times in other lifetimes, right? Because you can see some of those relationships. Those are love at first sight relationships. It's actually love at first memory. When you're with somebody that you don't remember you were with them in a past life, but that spark just initiates so quickly. It's like I know you forever. Maybe you have from past lives. That has nothing to do with the soulmate. That had to do with coming across a soul that you've been with before. But no, there are no twin souls. God did not make twin souls. God did not make soulmates. It's a complete myth. Make one out of the relationship you have and don't settle for less.
Well,
You like that?
I love the don't settle for less. And I think, in some of the things you were saying, what kept coming up for me was, people go into these relationships at times, because they'd rather not be alone than really be in that ultimate type relationship. So they do settle for less. And then they wonder why there's problems at some point. And I know,
absolutely.
Speaking for myself, I cherish every relationship I've ever been in. And there's some learning curves over the first half of my life for sure. But it was, I looked at what I could learn and what are the good things in those relationships and the value that certain partners have brought to my life for my own learning and growth and development, where I look at, I'm part of the man I am today because of the experiences I've had in the past. And if I didn't have those, the maybe what we'd call some painful ones, and the pleasurable side of those things, but those were all formative. And I love what you say too, because I've always looked at myself as what can I learn from this and do my best not to judge or put people down in that sense, because I want to look at myself first and own my own responsibility in terms of any engagement, because I'm the one responsible for me, right?
That's right. Absolutely. And what's great about what you said, those were the choices you made to use your experiences to learn from. A lot of people use their experiences to build more walls of defenses, more cases that you build against people. It's like, why should I even go out and try to date again? Because I'm the same thing's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Another habit, and women tend to have this habit more than men do, because it's a funny thing about men, and there's a reason for this, and I can get into it quickly. But when they are losing a partner in some way, either through a separation, a divorce, or even a dying, they've already got somebody lined up to come in, because men do not like being alone at all. They want a companion. Women, however, if you look at them, they get very used to it. They lose a spouse at a very young age. There is a majority of women that don't redate. They don't remarry. I mean, I remember my uncle died at 40 when she was 40 and he was 40 years old. She never dated and remarried again. She put all her life into her children. She figured that was it. Why are women able to do that? Well, because socially, they got used to doing that. Because if you think about it, the way they were brought up and the way men were brought up, men go out of the house and go to work. So through the majority of the day, women are without their men. Now, even though they may not have been socialized into believing they have the same value, they certainly got used to not having the man around in their lives. And they were still able to run the household, help the other neighbors who were sick, take care of the children, all things like that. They multitask. And we know this, the adage about men not being able to multitask. We can't walk and chew gum at the same time, right? But that's the reason why we were not socialized. We were socialized to focus on one thing. We got to go to work. We got to make the money. We got to bring it back. Of course, today it is different, because women are working now as well. But women are used to being alone. and still being able to highly function. So they've gotten into the habit that when they break apart in a relationship, instead of trying to heal themselves and work on themselves, they would rather just stay alone because they say it's easier that way. I have a lot of single women that say, no, my life is really good right now. I don't need to bring a man in that'll only complicate it. And the first thing I say is, well, then you never had the right man in to start with, because relationships don't complicate your life. They complement your life.
Yes.
And the whole purpose of being with somebody is you learn more about yourself like you did. You learn more about your compassion. You learn more about your weaknesses. You learn more about what you'd like to change, what you'd like to enhance. And the deeper the relationship, the more you learn. All right. Plus, sharing your life is vital and important. You and I can watch a movie alone. You watch it, I watch it, right? We absolutely love it. When we love it, what do? We call up our friends. We call up friends. Oh, you're not going to believe this movie I just saw. You have got to go out and watch Star Wars. It's absolutely incredible. And you know, when you go watch it, I want to come with you. Why do we do that? Why do we now go with the group to watch the same movie we just did at home? Because not only do we get enjoyment in our own lives, we get enjoyment out of other people's enjoyment.
Yes.
So therefore, sharing your life in a relationship, you get more enjoyment and value with what you've experienced. Who cares if you climb to the mountain by yourself and have not another person to share that with?
Well, that's so beautifully said, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it's a great place for us to, start wrapping up, because we've got a few minutes left. And I feel we could talk about this for hours, Vincent. I love your style and your enthusiasm. And if there's something that we could leave the listeners with while, we go into Valentine's Day and just, transitioning through these interesting times, what's the best way we can move forward, whether we're single or in a partnered relationship?
Okay. Whatever type of relationship you are in, you're always in a relationship. You're either in a relationship with just yourself, or you're in a relationship with yourself and others. Go and have a love affair with yourself first. Learn how to fall in love with yourself. Learn how to treat yourself right. This month, start with it. Lead all the way up to Valentine's Day. If you are alone, you're not. You've got you, yourself, and yourself. Me, myself, and I have 3 people to celebrate with, right? Take yourself out to dinner. Treat yourself great. Love yourself. What you would do with somebody else, do with yourself first. And, and enjoy. It's a love affair that you must have. And when you do that, and when you're with somebody else, still start with the self-love affair, and then extend it and share it with somebody else. It'll be that much deeper. Look at your partner that you love and say, you know what? I must be so great because I've attracted you in my life. And you're great because you've attracted me in your life. So appreciate both in the relationship, not just your partner, and don't ever use words like, I'm so lucky and fortunate to have you. No, you're not. You are so grown and evolved to have that person. You have come to understand and appreciate yourself in order to have that person. So you aren't fortunate. You're not a stray puppy with a broken leg. Okay? So start with a love affair. That's the best advice that I can give, Mark.
So on point, Vincent. Thank you so much. Now, for our listeners, maybe you can tell them how they can find you. They want to learn more about your work. Where would they go?
All they have to do to go to vincentgenna.com. That's VincentGenna.com. And from there, they can connect with me everywhere. I do Facebook Live events. I have a a Unity online radio show from unity.org, and they can come and listen, and a media page. I've got podcasts and a plethora of information there to help them. And so, yeah, that's the best place. Go to my website, link up with me there. And of course, I do private readings all over the world.
Perfect. And we'll also include the links down below in the chat of this Facebook Live video, as well as it'll also be on consciousliving.radio.org as we produce the page that will air this coming Wednesday on 100.5 FM CFRO in Vancouver. Vincent, I thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having a conversation with you, and I look forward to your new book coming out. When it does, reach out again. I'd be happy to have another conversation around that. And when we can all travel again and you come to Vancouver, we'll definitely do an event, and we'll get you out there for some more people to connect in an even more personal level with you directly. We look forward to
Absolutely. I appreciate that, and I'd love to. And thank you again so much, Mark, and all your listeners out there. I appreciate it. And celebrate yourself. You truly deserve that.
Well, thank you very much, Vincent. I look forward until we can speak again. And you've been listening to Conscious Living, again, 100.5 FM, CFRO, Co-op Radio here in Vancouver.